"24 hours, Miss Pierce. That's all the time you have left." Avalon Pierce gripped her phone tighter as the hospital receptionist's words struck like a physical blow. Her father would be discharged tomorrow, with or without payment. The taxi lurched to a stop in front of Blackwood Tower, the gleaming monolith that dominated the Manhattan skyline. Avalon handed the driver her last 20 and stepped out into the December chill. "Mr. Blackwood doesn't see anyone without an appointment," the security guard stated as she approached the desk. "Tell him Theodore Pierce's daughter is here." 15 minutes later, Avalon sat in a waiting room on the 50th floor, her violin case clutched to her chest like armor. She'd come straight from her performance at Carnegie Hall, still wearing her black concert dress. The irony wasn't lost on her. The most successful night of her musical career, followed by the complete destruction of her life. "Miss Pierce." The assistant's voice was crisp. "Mr. Blackwood will see you now." The office was a study in calculated intimidation. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture in blacks and chromes, and at its center, Thorne Blackwood himself. He didn't rise when she entered. He simply watched her with eyes the color of steel, his expression unreadable. "Sit," he commanded. Avalon remained standing. "My father owes me $4 million. Thorne leaned back in his chair. "A debt your family has been avoiding for 3 years. He's had a stroke. He needs specialized care. Not my problem. He'll die without it. Still not my problem." His gaze was clinical, assessing. "You played beautifully tonight. Vivaldi's Winter, wasn't it?" The casual shift disoriented her. "You were at the concert?" "I own the hall, Miss Pierce." He stood, buttoning his impeccably tailored jacket. "I own many things. I can pay you back. I just need time." Thorne laughed, a sound entirely devoid of humor. "A violinist with the Philharmonic makes what, $150,000 a year? It would take you decades." "Please." The word scraped her throat. "My sister is only 16. If our father dies, she'll have no one. She has you. I can't support her and pay for her education. Please, Mr. Blackwood. There must be something." "There is." He circled his desk, moving with predatory grace. "You." Avalon stepped back. "What? Your father took my money. I'll take something of his in return." Her stomach nodded. "I don't understand." 1 year, Miss Pierce." He stopped directly in front of her. "You become my companion for 1 year. You attend events on my arm. You live in my home. You give the world the impression that Thorne Blackwood has finally found someone worthy of his time. You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend? That's prostitution. I'm not interested in your body." His tone was dismissive. "I'm interested in your social value. A talented, beautiful musician with an impeccable reputation. The press would love it. Why would you want that?" "My reasons are my own. And if I agree, your father's debt is forgiven. He receives the best medical care money can buy. Your sister's education is funded through her doctorate if she chooses to pursue one." Avalon's mind raced. "And what exactly would my duties entail?" "Public appearances, dinners, charity events, the occasional weekend at my Connecticut estate when investors visit." His eyes narrowed. "Nothing physical, if that's your concern. I have other women for that." The casual cruelty of the statement made her flinch. "You have 24 hours to decide." He returned to his desk. "The same timeline your father has." "No." Avalon straightened her shoulders. "I don't need 24 hours. Something flickered in Thorne's expression. Surprise, perhaps. "If I do this, I want full medical coverage for my father. Permanent. Not just for a year." "Done. My sister's education costs covered completely. Already offered. And I keep my position with the Philharmonic." Thorne smiled, cold and calculating. "Now that's complicated. You'll be busy with your new role. I can't have you unavailable when I need you. It's non-negotiable." He studied her for a long moment. "You can keep your position, but when there's a conflict, my requirements take precedence." Avalon swallowed hard. "When do we start?" "Immediately. My assistant will take you to gather your personal belongings." He extended his hand. "Do we have a deal, Miss Pierce?" She looked at his outstretched hand, the hand that held her family's fate, and realized she had never truly known desperation until this moment. Avalon Pierce placed her hand in his. "We have a deal, Mr. Blackwood." His fingers closed around hers, sealing her fate. "Welcome to your new life," he said. The limousine glided through the wrought iron gates of Thorne Blackwood's Connecticut estate. Avalon pressed her forehead against the cool glass window, watching as the city faded, and sprawling grounds unfolded around them. 3 days had passed since she'd made her deal with the devil. 3 days of hurried goodbyes, of explaining to her sister Madison that everything would somehow be okay, of watching her father transferred to the prestigious Lakeview Medical Center where specialists had immediately taken over his care. The car stopped before an imposing structure of limestone and glass that seemed to rise organically from the landscape. "We've arrived, Miss Pierce." The driver opened her door. "Mr. Blackwood expects you in the main foyer." Avalon stepped out, clutching her violin case and small suitcase. The mansion loomed before her, modern yet timeless, its walls of windows reflecting the winter sky. "Your belongings will be brought to your room." A silver-haired woman appeared, her posture rigid. "I'm Mrs. Winters, the house manager." The irony of the name wasn't lost on Avalon as she followed the woman through massive double doors into a soaring entryway of white marble and steel. "Mr. Blackwood has provided a wardrobe for you," Mrs. Winters continued. "Your existing clothes will be stored." Avalon bristled. "I'd prefer to keep my own clothes." Mr. Blackwood was quite clear. "You'll find everything you need in your suite." They ascended a floating staircase to the second floor. The house was eerily quiet, their footsteps echoing against stone and glass. "This will be your room." Mrs. Winters opened a door to reveal a space that could have been transplanted from a luxury hotel, impeccably decorated in shades of cream and pale blue, but devoid of any personal touch. "The closet is through there. Bathroom to your right. Mr. Blackwood dines at 8 precisely. He expects you to join him." With that, Mrs. Winters left, closing the door with a soft click. Avalon placed her violin case on the bed, the one thing she had insisted on bringing herself. She unlatched it, running her fingers along the polished wood of the instrument that had been her companion since childhood. A knock interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called, expecting Mrs. Winters with more instructions. Instead, a young woman with bright red hair entered, carrying a garment bag. "Hi, I'm Zoe, Mr. Blackwood's stylist. I'm here to help you prepare for dinner." She hung the bag on a closet hook. "He wants you in this tonight." Inside was a simple black dress that probably cost more than Avalon's monthly rent. "Mr. Blackwood has a meeting in the city tomorrow," Zoe continued. "You'll be accompanying him to dinner with the Harringtons afterward. They're important clients." "Do I get any say in this schedule?" Zoe's smile faltered. "I just follow instructions. Shower's fully stocked. I'll be back in an hour to do your hair." After she left, Avalon stood in the center of the room, surrounded by luxury that felt like a prison. At 8 o'clock sharp, Mrs. Winters escorted her to the dining room, another monument to minimalism, dominated by a long table that could seat 20 but was set for just 2. Thorne Blackwood stood as she entered, his expression revealing nothing as his gaze swept over her. "The dress suits you," he said finally. "I didn't have much choice." "You had a choice, Miss Pierce. You made it in my office." He gestured to the chair at the opposite end of the table. "Sit." The distance between them was deliberate, Avalon realized. Close enough to be at the same table, far enough to prevent any actual connection. "Tomorrow night, we're dining with Royce Harrington and his wife," Thorne said as servers silently delivered the first course. "He's an investment banker. Former friend, current rival." "Why am I meeting him if he's your rival?" "Because in business, Miss Pierce, you keep your enemies at arm's length and your rivals even closer." He took a sip of wine. "Royce will be watching you carefully. He'll try to determine if our relationship is genuine. And if he decides it's not, then I lose credibility, which in my world translates to millions in potential business." Avalon pushed her food around her plate. "So I'm a prop in your business strategy." "You're an investment," Thorne corrected. "One I expect to pay dividends." They ate in silence until Avalon found the courage to ask, "Why me?" "You could have hired an actress." "Actresses talk. They embellish. They seek attention." His eyes met hers across the expanse of polished wood. "You, on the other hand, value discretion. You have something to lose if you fail to maintain our arrangement." "My father's care." "Precisely." The cold calculation behind his words made her stomach turn. Later that night, unable to sleep in the too-perfect room, Avalon wandered the silent house. The kitchen was dark, the staff quarters quiet. She followed the sound of classical music, faint but unmistakable, to a room at the far end of the east wing. Through a partially open door, she saw Thorne seated at a grand piano, his fingers moving across the keys with surprising skill. Chopin's Nocturne in C-sharp minor filled the space. Moonlight streamed through the windows, casting his face in sharp relief, and Avalon froze when she noticed something glistening on his cheek. A tear. She must have made some sound because Thorne's hands suddenly stilled on the keys. He turned sharply, his expression transforming from unguarded grief to cold fury in an instant. "What are you doing here?" he demanded. "I heard music. This wing is private." "I'm sorry, I didn't know." But she couldn't take her eyes off his face, where the evidence of his emotions still lingered. "You play beautifully. Get out." Avalon took a step back. "The Nocturne, it's one of my favorites." "I said get out." He stood abruptly, the piano bench scraping harshly against the floor. She fled, but not before witnessing something that would haunt her thoughts for days to come. The glimpse of a different man behind Thorne Blackwood's carefully constructed facade. A man who played Chopin in the moonlight and allowed himself to weep when he thought no one was watching. The Winston Foundation Gala represented everything Avalon had spent her life avoiding. Obscene wealth paraded as philanthropy, champagne that cost more than a month's rent, and conversations engineered to flaunt status rather than exchange ideas. Yet here she stood on Thorne Blackwood's arm, wearing a gown that cost more than her first violin, smiling as if she belonged. "Senator Callahan." Thorne greeted a silver-haired man with practiced warmth. "You remember my partner, Avalon Pierce." "The musician," Callahan's wife exclaimed. "We saw you perform with the Philharmonic last season. Absolutely transcendent." "Thank you," Avalon replied, the compliment a rare moment of authenticity in an evening built on pretense. "Thorne," Senator Callahan lowered his voice, "about that energy proposal." "Perhaps later," Thorne interrupted smoothly. "Tonight is for celebrating the Foundation's work, not politics." Avalon noted how Thorne navigated these interactions with precision, deflecting, charming, manipulating the conversation with a skill that would be admirable if it weren't so calculated. 3 weeks had passed since their confrontation in the piano room. 3 weeks of careful choreography as she learned to play her role in Thorne's world. They never spoke of what she'd witnessed, though sometimes she caught him watching her with an expression she couldn't decipher. "You're doing well," he murmured as they moved to another cluster of guests. "The Callaghan's are convinced. I'm a musician. Performance comes naturally." His hand tightened slightly at her waist. "Careful, Miss Pierce. Your disdain is showing." A server offered champagne. Thorne took 2 flutes, handing one to Avalon. "To convincing performances," he said, his eyes never leaving hers as they clinked glasses. "Mr. Blackwood." A woman with a predatory smile approached. "And this must be the famous Avalon Pierce." "Eliza." Thorne's tone cooled noticeably. "My cousin, Eliza Blackwood," he explained to Avalon. "A distant relation, thankfully." Eliza's laugh was brittle. "Always the charmer, cousin. I've been dying to meet the woman who finally captured the elusive Thorne Blackwood." Her gaze cut to Avalon. "Everyone's talking about you, darling. The talented violinist who came out of nowhere to snag Greenwich's most eligible bachelor." "I wouldn't say I came from nowhere," Avalon replied evenly. "No? Where did you meet?" Thorne's been so secretive. Before Avalon could answer, Thorne interjected. "At Carnegie Hall. I heard her play Vivaldi and was captivated." He glanced at Avalon with a warmth she'd never seen before. Sometimes the right notes can break through even the most carefully constructed walls. The performance was flawless, his tone, his expression, the way his hand moved to the small of her back. For a moment, even Avalon almost believed him. How romantic. Eliza's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Though I'm surprised. After what happened with Sophia, I thought." "Eliza." Thorne's voice held a warning. "Water under the bridge, I'm sure." Eliza patted Avalon's arm. "Just be careful, dear. My cousin's heart is more heavily guarded than Fort Knox, and with good reason." As Eliza sauntered away, Avalon felt Thorne stiffen beside her. "Who's Sophia?" she asked quietly. "No one of consequence." His jaw tightened. "I need air. Wait here." She watched him thread through the crowd toward the terrace doors, his shoulders unnaturally rigid. 20 minutes passed. Avalon made polite conversation with strangers, her eyes frequently drifting to the terrace doors. Finally, concern outweighed caution, and she followed Thorne's path. The spring night was cool, the Manhattan skyline a glittering backdrop. She scanned the terrace, finding Thorn in a shadowed corner, one hand braced against the stone balustrade, the other pressed to his chest. Thorn. He turned sharply, and Avalon's breath caught. His face was ashen, beads of sweat on his forehead despite the chill. Go back inside. His voice was strained. You're ill. I'm fine. You're not. She moved closer. Should I call someone? No. The word was harsh, desperate. No doctors. No attention. He reached into his jacket pocket with shaking fingers, retrieving a small pill bottle. What's wrong? What are those? He ignored her, struggling to open the bottle. The tremor in his hands intensified, and the bottle fell, pills scattering across the stone floor. Damn it! His knees buckled. Avalon rushed forward, catching his arm. Tell me what to do. The pills, he gasped. I need one under my tongue. She knelt, searching frantically among the scattered medication, finally finding one and pressing it into his palm. He placed it under his tongue, his breathing labored. Help me sit, he managed. She guided him to a bench, her arms supporting his weight. For several minutes, they sat in silence, his breathing gradually steadying. Better? She asked finally. He nodded, straightening his tie with hands that still trembled slightly. Not a word of this to anyone. What just happened? A minor cardiac episode. Nothing unusual. Nothing unusual? Incredulity sharpened her tone. Your heart is none of your concern. He met her gaze, color returning to his face. This stays between us, Avalon. No one can know. It was the first time he'd used her first name, she realized. Why the secrecy? Heart conditions aren't exactly uncommon. In my world, any sign of weakness is blood in the water. He stood carefully. We need to return before we're missed. As they reached the terrace doors, Thorn paused. Thank you, he said quietly, for your discretion. I didn't do it for you. I know. Something like respect flickered in his eyes. That's why I trust it. He offered his arm, composed once more, all traces of vulnerability masked. But as they re-entered the ballroom, Avalon felt his hand cover hers where it rested on his arm. 3 gentle squeezes, quick, rhythmic, deliberate. The gesture seemed unconscious, yet profoundly intimate. By the time she glanced up questioningly, his attention was already elsewhere, greeting another guest with practiced charm. But something had shifted between them, a crack in the ice, a glimpse behind the mask. And despite herself, Avalon couldn't help wondering what other secrets Thorn Blackwood was hiding beneath his carefully controlled surface. Royce Harrington swirled the bourbon in his crystal tumbler, watching the light catch the amber liquid. So Thorn Blackwood is in love. Never thought I'd see the day. He's not in love. Eliza Blackwood perched on the edge of his desk, her red stilettos matching her perfectly manicured nails. It's a business arrangement of some kind. You sure? Royce raised an eyebrow. The way he looked at her at the gala. Thorn doesn't look at anyone that way. Eliza's voice hardened. Not since Sophia. Royce's office overlooked Central Park, the spring foliage creating a green canopy below. He stood, moving to the window. Sophia was a mistake that cost him control of the Shanghai merger. He turned back to Eliza. This violinist could be his next mistake. Which is why we need to understand what she is to him. Eliza scrolled through her phone. Avalon Pierce, 24. Musical prodigy with the Philharmonic. Father recently suffered a major stroke, now receiving care at Lakeview Medical. Lakeview. Royce frowned. That's not cheap. Exactly. And get this. Her father owed Thorn money. A lot of it. Royce's eyes narrowed. So Thorn forgave the debt in exchange for the daughter? That's medieval. It's leverage. Eliza smiled coldly. And leverage is something we can use. Your heart is deteriorating faster than we anticipated. Dr. Lyon removed his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. The medication is no longer sufficient. Thorn sat motionless in the leather chair of his private study, his expression betraying nothing as Dr. Lyon continued. We need to consider more aggressive options. A transplant is not an option. Thorn's voice was flat. My blood type makes finding a match difficult, and I won't be on a public waiting list. Then we're looking at less than a year. Thorn. The clock on the mantel ticked loudly in the silence that followed. Outside the window, Thorn caught a glimpse of Avalon walking in the garden, violin case in hand. There are experimental treatments, Dr. Lyon offered. A specialist in Switzerland. Let me know the details. Thorn stood, signaling the end of the conversation. And Lyon, remember our agreement. Complete confidentiality. I haven't forgotten. The doctor packed his bag. But you should consider telling her. Thorne's gaze sharpened. Who? Miss Pierce. If things progress as I expect, there will come a point when you can't hide it. After the doctor left, Thorne remained at the window, watching as Avalon found a spot beneath an oak tree and removed her violin from its case. Even from this distance, he could see the tension leave her body as she positioned the instrument under her chin. 6 weeks had passed since the night on the terrace. 6 weeks of careful distance punctuated by moments of unexpected connection. He'd caught her watching him sometimes, her expression thoughtful, as if trying to solve a puzzle. The melody of her violin reached him faintly through the glass, something melancholy and haunting. Bach, he thought. The Chaconne from Partita No. 2. His phone rang, breaking the moment. Blackwood, he answered. We have a problem. Carter, his head of security. Someone's asking questions about Miss Pierce's father. Thorne's grip tightened on the phone. Who? A private investigator. Paid in cash. We can't trace it back to the client yet. Find out who hired him. Already on it. There's something else. A reporter from the Financial Times called. They're running a piece on your recent market positions, but they also asked about your health. Thorne went still. What specifically? Whether rumors of a heart condition are affecting your business decisions. Handle it. Sir, if this gets out. I said handle it. Thorne ended the call, his mind already calculating potential sources of the leak. Lyon was loyal and well-paid, which left someone inside his household, someone who had witnessed his episode at the gala, or Avalon. The thought formed and was dismissed in the same moment. She had nothing to gain by exposing him. If anything, his illness threatened her father's care. The melody outside changed to something lighter, more hopeful. Mozart, perhaps. Thorne found himself moving toward the door before consciously deciding to do so. The air outside was mild, the garden filled with the scent of early roses. Avalon didn't notice his approach, lost in her music, eyes closed as her bow danced across the strings. Thorne stopped, unwilling to interrupt. Without the weight of pretense between them, her face was transformed, passionate, alive in a way he rarely witnessed. The final notes hung in the air, resonant and pure. Mozart's Violin Concerto No. 3, he said as she lowered her instrument. Second movement. She startled, then nodded. You know your classical repertoire. My mother insisted on a thorough musical education. He sat on the stone bench near her. Though I never achieved your level of artistry. I heard you play that night, she said quietly. The Chopin. You're more talented than you admit. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them. Why did you come outside, Thorne? The directness of her question caught him off guard. In his world, people rarely asked his motives outright. My doctor visited today. Your heart. He nodded, surprising himself with the admission. Is it serious? Her concern seemed genuine. Terminal, without intervention. The words hung between them, stark and unadorned. But that stays between us. Why tell me it all? It was a fair question, one for which he had no satisfactory answer. Before he could respond, Mrs. Winters appeared at the garden entrance. Mr. Blackwood, Mr. Harrington is here to see you. Thorne stood. I didn't have a meeting scheduled with Royce. He says it's urgent, sir. Thorne turned to Avalon. We'll continue this conversation later. She nodded, already returning her violin to its case, the moment of connection broken. Royce Harrington lounged in one of the leather chairs in Thorne's study, uninvited familiarity in every line of his body. To what do I owe this unexpected visit? Thorne remained standing, making no effort to hide his irritation. Can't old friends drop by? Royce smiled, the expression not reaching his eyes. Especially when they have valuable information. We haven't been friends in years, Royce. No, not since you stole the Morgan account. I didn't steal anything. You lost it through your own incompetence. Royce's smile tightened. Always direct, Thorne. It's what I've always admired about you. He leaned forward. Speaking of directness, there's a rumor circulating about your health. Thorne betrayed no reaction. Is that why you're here? To discuss gossip. Not just gossip when the Financial Times is asking questions. Royce stood, moving to pour himself a drink from Thorne's bar. If word gets out that you're dying, stock prices will plummet. Investors will flee. I'm not dying. Not yet. Royce took a sip of his stolen scotch. But a little bird told me your prognosis isn't good. Get to the point. I want the Eastland development. Sign it over to me, and this health rumor disappears. Blackmail, Royce? That's low, even for you. Business, Thorne. Just business. Roy set down his glass. Oh, and your violinist? Quite the arrangement you have there. Her father's dead, her service. Almost futile. Thorne moved with a speed that belied his condition, closing the distance between them in 2 strides. Stay away from Avalon. Surprise flashed across Royce's face, quickly replaced by calculation. Interesting. You actually care about her. Get out. Think about my offer, Thorne. Royce headed for the door. You're running out of time in more ways than one. After Royce left, Thorne stood motionless in the center of the room, mind racing. Someone had leaked information about both his health and his arrangement with Avalon. The circle of people who knew both was vanishingly small. Outside the window, he saw Avalon walking back toward the house, violin case in hand, her copper hair catching the late afternoon sun. For a moment, doubt clouded his thoughts. Could he trust her? Or was she working with Royce, playing a deeper game? The thought left a bitter taste in his mouth, one that felt disturbingly like disappointment. The hospital corridor smelled of antiseptic and artificial lemon. Avalon balanced a vase of fresh daisies, her father's favorites, as she navigated the familiar route to his room. 2 months had passed since she'd moved into Thorne's mansion. 2 months of an increasingly complex charade that was becoming harder to define. Her weekly visits to her father were the only moments when she felt like herself again. Avalon. Her father's voice was stronger today, his smile genuine when she entered. Those daisies are lovely. Theodore Pierce sat in a wheelchair by the window, sunlight illuminating the changes in him. Thinner, grayer, but with clear eyes and steady hands. A remarkable recovery, the doctors called it. A miracle of modern medicine and round-the-clock care. Care that Thorne Blackwood was paying for. How are you feeling, Dad? She set the flowers on the side table, leaning down to kiss his cheek. Better, every day. The physical therapist says I might walk with just a cane soon. He squeezed her hand. But enough about me. How's the Philharmonic? Still practicing that Sibelius concerto? Avalon hesitated. She'd told him about her arrangement with Thorne in the vaguest terms possible. A patron who was supporting her career in exchange for appearances at cultural events. A half-truth that protected him from worry. The concerto's coming along. We have a performance next week. And your patron, Mr. Blackwood? Is he treating you well? Something in his tone made her look more closely at her father. Has Madison been talking to you? Your sister worries. He adjusted his glasses. Says you don't sound like yourself on the phone. I'm fine, Dad. Just busy. Avalon. His tone held the same gentle firmness she remembered from childhood. I've known Thorne Blackwood longer than you think. She stilled. What do you mean? Before you were born. I was a firefighter then. He looked out the window, his expression distant. There was a house fire in Greenwich. One of those old mansions. Fire spread quickly. The parents didn't make it. Unease prickled along Avalon's spine. Dad, we found the boy in a closet. 8 years old. Hiding from the flames. Theodore's hand trembled slightly. I carried him out. He was clutching a small wooden horse, the only thing he saved. Wouldn't let go, even as the paramedics checked him for burns. Avalon sank into the chair opposite her father, pieces falling into place with sickening clarity. The boy was Thorne. It wasn't a question. Theodore nodded. Thorne Blackwood. Born Michael Thorne. His adoptive family changed his name after the fire. You never told me. Why would I? It was just another rescue, until 3 years ago when I needed a loan from Madison's school. He sighed. I thought he might remember, might be willing to help. I was wrong. He didn't recognize you? Oh, he recognized me. The moment I walked into his office. Theodore's expression hardened. But the man I met wasn't the boy I saved. He was cold, calculating. Said he hadn't forgotten the firefighter who pulled him from the flames, but memories didn't entitle me to special treatment. Avalon's mind raced, cataloging every interaction with Thorne in this new light. So when he offered to forgive your debt in exchange for my companionship, it wasn't just business, Theodore finished. It was personal, though I didn't realize how personal until I saw your photo in the society pages. The way he looked at you. It's not like that between us. Are you sure? He leaned forward. Avalon, what exactly does he want from you? I don't know anymore. The admission felt like surrender. At first it seemed straightforward. A business arrangement. But now, the door opened, interrupting her. A nurse entered, followed by Dr. Lyon. Miss Pierce, I didn't expect to see you today. Dr. Lyon's surprise seemed genuine. I visit my father every Thursday, Avalon replied. What are you doing here? Dr. Lyon has been overseeing my case personally, Theodore explained. A courtesy from Mr. Blackwood, apparently. Avalon frowned. You're Thorne's cardiologist. I specialize in several areas. Lyon smiled smoothly. Mr. Blackwood asked me to ensure your father receives the best care. Did he? Avalon stood. Or was it to keep an eye on us? Avalon, her father cautioned. Excuse me, I need some air. She squeezed her father's shoulder before leaving, her thoughts in turmoil. Outside, she leaned against the hospital wall, pulling out her phone. 3 missed calls from Thorne. A text, where are you? The Shaw dinner is tonight. She'd forgotten. Another high society event where she was expected to play her part. The thought exhausted her. Instead of replying, she called Madison. Hey, sis. Her sister's voice was a bomb. How's Dad? Better. Listen, what do you know about Thorne Blackwood? Did Dad ever say anything about a fire? The Greenwich fire? Yeah, he mentioned it once. Madison paused. Wait, is that why Blackwood's so weird about our family? Because Dad saved him. You knew? I Googled him after you moved into his house. Found an old article about the fire. Didn't take a genius to connect the dots. Madison's tone sharpened. What's going on, Avalon? You've been acting strange for weeks. It's complicated. Then uncomplicated. Are you in trouble? No, not exactly. Avalon sighed. Thorne isn't what I thought. Good not what you thought or bad not what you thought. I don't know yet. As she ended the call, Avalon noticed a familiar black sedan pulling into the hospital parking lot. Carter, Thorne's head of security, emerged from the driver's side. And from the back seat, Thorne himself. She ducked around the corner, watching as he entered the hospital. His movements were purposeful, his expression grim. Following at a distance, she saw him stop at the reception desk, then head down the corridor toward her father's room. Avalon rushed after him, reaching the doorway just as she heard Thorne's voice from inside. Did you tell her? She deserved to know. Her father's response was calm. That wasn't your decision to make. She's my daughter. Thorne stopped. It complicates things. Maybe things should be complicated. Theodore's tone hardened. What are you doing, Thorne? Using my daughter to settle some twisted score with the past. Is that what you think this is? I think you've spent 20 years building walls. Becoming the kind of man who uses people as commodities, who calls in debts with cruel conditions. I forgave your debt. In exchange for Avalon. She chose to accept the arrangement. Because you left her no choice. Theodore's voice rose. Just like you had no choice when your parents died. Silence fell, so complete Avalon could hear the ticking of the wall clock. I've never forgotten what you did, Thorne finally said, his voice stripped of its usual confidence. Carrying me out when everyone else had given up. The oxygen mask. The way you kept talking to me, making sure I stayed conscious. I was doing my job. You were the last person who showed me genuine kindness without wanting something in return. A pause. Until Avalon. Avalon's breath caught. She sees you, Theodore said quietly. The real you, not the mask you wear for everyone else. That terrifies you, doesn't it? She's fulfilling a contract. Is that all it is to you? Because I've seen the photos, Thorne. The way you look at her when you think no one notices. Avalon stepped into the doorway, unable to remain hidden any longer. Is it true? Both men turned. Thorne's expression shifted from surprise to carefully constructed neutrality. What are you doing here? He asked. I visit my father every Thursday. You know that. She stepped fully into the room. Was this all about the fire? About my father saving you? Thorne's jaw tightened. You should be getting ready for the Shaw dinner. Answer me. It's complicated. Uncomplicated. She echoed her sister's words. Did you arrange all of this? The debt, the contract, everything, because of what happened 20 years ago? That's part of it. What's the rest? Before he could answer, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, his expression changing. I have to take this. He stepped into the hallway, leaving Avalon and her father in tense silence. He's not what he seems, Theodore said softly. I'm beginning to realize that. Avalon sat heavily in the chair beside him. What am I supposed to do with this information, Dad? That depends on what you want. I don't know what I want anymore. She ran a hand through her hair. A month ago, I would have said I wanted out of this arrangement. Now I don't know who Thorne Blackwood really is. The cruel businessman who bought a year of my life, or the boy with the wooden horse who never recovered from losing everything. Theodore took her hand. Maybe he's both. Maybe we all are, shaped by our worst moments and our best, constantly choosing which version of ourselves to present to the world. Thorne re-entered the room, his face pale with barely controlled anger. "We need to go," he said to Avalon. "Now." "What's wrong?" "Royce Harrington just leaked a story to the financial press. About my health. About us." His eyes locked with hers, accusatory. Someone has been sharing information they shouldn't have. The implication was clear. "You think I did this?" Avalon stood. "After everything? Who else knew both about my heart condition and the nature of our arrangement?" "Your entire household staff. Dr. Lyon. Eliza. People I've vetted. Trusted for years. And you haven't vetted me?" Her voice rose. "Haven't had Carter investigate every aspect of my life. Haven't controlled my every movement for the past 2 months." Thorne's expression flickered. "Avalon, no." She cut him off. "I've played your game. I've smiled for the cameras. I've pretended to be captivated by the great Thorne Blackwood. But I will not stand here and be accused of betrayal by the man who purchased me like property." She turned to her father. "I'll call you later." As she brushed past Thorne, he caught her arm. "Where are you going?" "Away from you." She pulled free. "Figure out your own damage control." The last thing she saw as she walked away was Theodore Pierce's expression, a complicated mixture of concern and something that looked disturbingly like approval. Rain lashed against the windows of Avalon's apartment, the tiny Brooklyn studio a far cry from the luxury she'd grown accustomed to over the past months. 3 days had passed since she'd walked out of the hospital, hailed a taxi, and returned to the life she'd left behind. 3 days of silence from Thorne. Her phone buzzed. Madison again, the 5th call today. Avalon let it go to voicemail. She wasn't ready to explain why she'd abandoned their father's care arrangement or what would happen next. The Financial Times article sat open on her laptop. Blackwood Empire on shaky ground. Sources confirm CEO's failing health. The piece detailed Thorne's heart condition and hinted at his suspicious personal arrangement with musician Avalon Pierce, daughter of a man deeply indebted to Blackwood. A knock at the door startled her. Not Thorne. He would never come to Brooklyn personally. Probably Carter, sent to retrieve her or deliver legal threats. She opened the door to find Eliza Blackwood, immaculate despite the downpour, red lips curved in a predatory smile. "Darling Avalon," she purred. "Aren't you going to invite me in?" Stunned, Avalon stepped aside. Eliza surveyed the apartment with thinly veiled disdain. "Charming. So authentic. What do you want, Eliza?" "To congratulate you, of course." She perched on the edge of Avalon's futon. Not many people walk away from Thorne Blackwood. Even fewer damage him in the process. "I didn't leak that story." "No." Eliza's eyebrow arched. "A pity. You'd have made a useful ally." "I'm not interested in being anyone's ally. Not even Thorne's." After all his generosity. Eliza removed an envelope from her designer handbag. "Your father's medical bills. Paid in full through the end of the year. Despite your abrupt departure." Avalon's throat tightened. Why would he do that? Who knows why Thorne does anything? The man's an enigma, even to family. Eliza stood, circling the small space. "Though I suspect it has something to do with your father pulling him from that fire all those years ago. You know about that? Family history. Tragic orphan adopted by distant relatives. Classic Dickensian setup." She stopped at Avalon's violin case. "Shame you won't be there to watch the rest of his story unfold." "What does that mean?" "Thorne's condition is deteriorating rapidly. The board is meeting tomorrow to discuss a leadership transition." Eliza's finger traced the violin case's edge. "Without a heart transplant, which he refuses to consider, he has months at best." The news hit Avalon like a physical blow. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you fascinate me, Avalon Pierce. The woman who somehow got under Thorne's skin." Eliza moved to the door. "A feat I wouldn't have thought possible after Sophia." "Who is Sophia?" "Everyone mentions her, but no one explains." "His fiancée. 8 years ago." Eliza's expression hardened. "She was carrying his child when she died in a car accident. Thorne was driving." Avalon sat heavily on the futon. "I didn't know." "Why would you?" "Thorne buried that part of himself along with her." Eliza opened the door. "Enjoy your freedom, Avalon. You've certainly earned it." After she left, Avalon sat motionless, the revelation about Sophia twisting something painful inside her chest. Her phone rang again, not Madison this time, but Dr. Lyon. She answered, apprehension coiling in her stomach. "Miss Pierce, Lyon's voice was clipped. I need to speak with you about Mr. Blackwood. Did he send you to bring me back? No. He doesn't know I'm calling. A pause. He collapsed this morning during the board meeting. He's refusing treatment. What do you want me to do about it? Talk to him. Make him see reason. Why would he listen to me? He thinks I betrayed him. Because, Lyon said softly, your name was the only one he said when he regained consciousness. The private hospital suite was dimly lit, machines beeping softly in rhythm with Thorne's heartbeat. He was asleep, face ashen against the white pillows, looking smaller somehow without his usual aura of command. Avalon approached quietly, setting her violin case on a nearby chair. She hadn't planned to bring it, but something had compelled her to carry this piece of herself into the sterile hospital environment. He's stable for now, Dr. Lyon said from the doorway. But without the transplant. I understand. She sat in the chair beside the bed. I'd like to be alone with him. Lyon nodded, withdrawing silently. For several minutes, Avalon simply watched Thorne breathe, noting the premature lines of strain around his eyes, the slight tremor in his hand, even in sleep. The ruthless businessman looked unexpectedly vulnerable. His eyes opened suddenly, focusing on her with confusion that quickly shifted to wariness. What are you doing here? His voice was hoarse. Dr. Lyon called me. I'll fire him in the morning. Thorne attempted to sit up, wincing. Don't move. She adjusted his pillows. You had an episode. A minor setback. Collapsing in front of your entire board isn't minor. She poured a glass of water from the bedside pitcher. Here. He accepted the glass, their fingers brushing. Why did you come? I don't know. It was the truth. Maybe because I understand what it's like to be alone when you're scared. I'm not scared. Liar. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. I've been called worse. Silence fell between them, less tense than she expected. I didn't leak the story, she said finally. I know. You know? Carter tracked it to Royce's assistant. Paid by Eliza. Thorne set the glass down. The Pierce family integrity remains intact. You could have told me that before I left. You wouldn't have believed me. He met her gaze directly, and part of you wanted a reason to leave. The accuracy of his assessment unsettled her. Why did you keep paying my father's medical bills? I made a promise. The contract was void when I left. Some promises transcend contracts. His expression shifted, became distant. I owed him that much. Because he saved you from the fire. Thorne's eyes sharpened. So Theodore told you everything. Not everything. Not about Sophia. His entire body tensed, the heart monitor accelerating its beep. Who told you about her? Eliza came to see me. Of course she did. Bitterness edged his words. Always efficient in causing maximum damage. Was it true? Were you engaged? Was she pregnant? Thorne turned his face away. It was a long time ago. Is that why you never wanted the arrangement to be physical? Because of her? No. Yes. He sighed. It's complicated. Uncomplicated for me. The echo of her earlier challenge hung between them. After a long moment, Thorne spoke, his voice barely audible. I was driving too fast, arguing about wedding details. Something trivial. His hand clenched on the blanket. I didn't see the truck until it was too late. Avalon remained silent, letting him continue at his own pace. She died instantly. The baby too. His eyes found hers, raw with an emotion she couldn't name. The accident damaged my heart. Ironic, isn't it? The organ was already metaphorically destroyed. Might as well be literally failing too. I'm sorry. I don't want your pity. It's not pity, Thorne. It's compassion. There's a difference. He looked away. You should go. Is that what you want? What I want doesn't matter. It matters to me. The admission hung in the air between them, unexpected and undeniable. I need to ask you something, she said. More questions about my tragic past? Eliza must be disappointed she didn't get to tell you every sordid detail. Why did you really want me to be part of your life? Was it just about my father? About the fire? At first, his honesty surprised her. I don't know what I thought. That having you there would settle some debt, balance the scales. And later I realized no amount of manipulation or control could change the past. His voice softened. And that you were nothing like I expected. How so? You never bent. Never broke. No matter what I demanded or how coldly I treated you. A hint of admiration colored his tone. You saw through every defense I constructed. Not every defense, she countered. I never saw Sophia. Never understood why you kept that distance between us, even when it was clear that something was changing. Thorne's expression closed. Nothing was changing. You're lying again. Avalon leaned forward. Those moments at the piano, on the terrace at the gala, in the garden when you told me about your diagnosis. Something was happening, Thorne. Something real. It doesn't matter now. His voice hardened. You left. Contract over. You're free. What if I don't want to be free? The words escaped before she could consider their implications. Thorne's eyes widened, genuine surprise breaking through his careful control. Before he could respond, the door opened. Royce Harrington entered, his expensive suit as impeccable as always, his smile triumphant. Thorne, my friend. Heard about your little episode. Thought I'd check on you. His gaze flicked to Avalon. And Miss Pierce too. How touching. Get out, Royce. Thorne's voice regained its authoritative edge. Now, is that any way to treat a concerned friend? Especially one who just purchased controlling interest in Blackwood Industries. Avalon felt Thorne go rigid beside her. That's impossible, Thorne said. The shares are locked in trust. We're locked in trust. Until Eliza convinced the board that your health makes you unfit to lead. Royce pulled a document from his jacket. Sign this afternoon. I'm the new CEO, effective immediately. Thorne's heart monitor accelerated its beeping. Avalon placed a warning hand on his arm. This won't stand, Thorne said through clenched teeth. It already has. The press release goes out tomorrow. Royce placed the document on the bedside table. Don't worry, we'll provide a generous retirement package. Something to keep you comfortable for whatever time you have left. You orchestrated this. Avalon stood, anger burning through her restraint. The leak about his health. The timing of it all. Business, Miss Pierce. Just business. Royce adjusted his cuffs. Nothing personal. Get out before I call security, she demanded. Your security, Royce reminded Thorne, which now reports to me. He moved to the door. Rest up, old friend. You look terrible. After he left, the room fell silent except for the accelerated beeping of Thorne's heart monitor. Thorne, Avalon began. Don't. His voice was ice. Don't say anything. She watched as he visibly gathered himself, forcing his breathing to slow, the monitor gradually returning to a steadier rhythm. You should go, he said finally, his voice empty of emotion. I'm not leaving you like this. Why not? You did before. The accusation stung, but she recognized it for what it was, a desperate attempt to push her away. That was different. Was it? His eyes met hers, wounded and challenging. You left when things got difficult. When the truth was too complicated. You left, Avalon. Just like everyone else. I came back. For what? To witness my humiliation? To see everything I've built taken from me? Bitterness edged each word. Go home, Avalon. Your contract is fulfilled. Your father's care is guaranteed. There's nothing left for you here. She stepped closer to the bed. You're wrong. About what? There is something left. She reached for his hand, squeezing it 3 times. The same gesture he'd made to her that night at the gala. This, whatever this is between us. For a moment, something vulnerable flickered in his eyes. Then the wall came down, his expression hardening. There is nothing between us. He pulled his hand away. There never was. The finality in his voice cut deeper than she expected. Avalon stepped back, gathering her violin case. When you're ready to stop lying to yourself, she said quietly. You know where to find me. She walked to the door, pausing with her hand on the handle. Goodbye, Thorne. He didn't answer. His face turned resolutely away, the beeping of his heart monitor the only sound in the room. As Avalon walked down the hospital corridor, each step taking her further from Thorne Blackwood and the complicated, unexpected feelings he'd awakened in her, she didn't see Eliza watching from the shadows, a satisfied smile playing across her crimson lips. 2 weeks passed in a blur of auditions and practice rooms. Avalon threw herself into her music, accepting every performance opportunity the Philharmonic offered. Work became her refuge, the only place where the confusion in her heart quieted under the discipline of bow against string. Madison sprawled across Avalon's futon, scrolling through her phone. Have you seen this? Avalon set down her violin. Seen what? Thorne Blackwood. It's all over the financial news. Madison turned the screen toward her. He's been hospitalized again. Critical condition. The headline blurred before Avalon's eyes. Blackwood Air fighting for life as company changes hands. When Her voice sounded distant to her own ears. Yesterday. Apparently, he collapsed at his Connecticut estate. Madison sat up. Avalon, are you okay? The violin slipped from her grasp. Madison caught it, concern etching her features. You still care about him. It wasn't a question. Avalon didn't bother denying it. I need to see him. Why? After everything he did. Because. Avalon stopped, unable to articulate the complicated tangle of emotions Thorne evoked. Just because. Madison studied her sister. Dad said something was different between you two. Something real. Dad talks too much. He also said Thorne looks at you the way he used to look at Mom. Avalon closed her eyes, remembering the rare moments when Thorne's mask had slipped, playing Chopin in moonlight, 3 gentle squeezes of her hand, the vulnerability in his eyes when he spoke of Sophia. Her phone rang. Dr. Lyon. Miss Pierce. His voice was grave. Thorne has taken a turn. The transplant team is on standby, but without family consent. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Greenwich Memorial's cardiac unit hummed with quiet efficiency. Lyon met Avalon at the elevator, his expression grim. His heart is failing. We've moved him to top priority on the transplant list, but he's left explicit instructions refusing the procedure. Why? Ask him yourself. Lyon led her to a private room. He's conscious but weak. Don't upset him. Thorne lay surrounded by machines, oxygen tubes in his nose, monitors tracking his failing heart. His eyes were closed, face gaunt with pain. Thorne, she whispered. His eyes opened, focusing on her with effort. Avalon. His voice was barely audible. Why are you here? Lyon called me. Should fire him, he murmured, the familiar words bringing a sad smile to her lips. Why are you refusing the transplant? What's the point? Bitterness colored his weak voice. Company's gone. Legacy destroyed. Your life isn't just your company. Without it, I'm nothing. That's not true. She moved closer, taking his hand. You're more than Blackwood Industries. His laugh turned into a cough. What am I then? You're the boy who survived the fire. The man who plays Chopin in moonlight. The person who squeezes hands 3 times when words fail. She met his gaze directly. You're someone worth saving, Thorne. Something flickered in his eyes, hope quickly extinguished by doubt. It's too late. It's never too late. She reached for her violin case. I brought something for you. Music at my deathbed? How theatrical. Despite everything, the glimpse of his usual sardonic humor made her smile. Just listen. She positioned the violin under her chin, closing her eyes as the first notes of Chopin's Nocturne in C-sharp minor filled the room. The same piece she'd heard him play that first night, transformed by the voice of her violin. The monitors tracking Thorne's heart rate responded, the beeping subtly aligning with the rhythm of the music. Avalon played with everything she felt, the confusion, the anger, the unexpected tenderness that had grown despite all odds. When the final note faded, she opened her eyes to find Thorne watching her, tears tracking silently down his face. How did you know? He whispered. Know what? That was my mother's favorite. She played it the night before the fire. Avalon set down her violin. I didn't know. I just remembered you playing it. Avalon. He reached for her hand, his grip weak but determined. There's something you should know. Save your strength. No. If I don't make it, you're going to make it. If I don't, he insisted, I need you to know the truth. A monitor alarm sounded, his heartbeat becoming erratic. Lyon rushed in with a medical team. He's in V-Tach, a nurse called. Pressure's dropping. Thorne. Avalon tried to reach him as they worked, monitors screaming in warning. Miss Pierce, you need to leave, Lyon ordered. No, please. Now. As they pushed her from the room, Thorne's eyes found hers one last time. His lips moved, forming words she couldn't hear over the chaos. The doors swung shut, leaving her in the sterile hallway as inside. They fought to save Thorne Blackwood's failing heart. Hours passed in the waiting room. Avalon clutched her violin case, mind replaying every moment with Thorne, searching for missed connections, words unsaid. Lyon emerged finally, exhaustion evident in every line of his body. He stabilized. For now. He sat heavily beside her. A heart became available 30 minutes ago. Perfect match. If we move quickly. Do it. I need family consent. Then find his family. There is no family. Just a cousin who declined to make medical decisions. Lyon met her gaze. He left power of attorney to you, Avalon. 2 weeks ago. The revelation struck her speechless. Why would he do that? You'd have to ask him. If he survives. Avalon closed her eyes, the weight of Thorne's life literally in her hands. Do the transplant. Are you certain? It's against his stated wishes. Do it, she repeated firmly. And if he hates me for it afterward, at least he'll be alive to hate me. 6 months later, the Connecticut estate looked transformed. Curtains billowed in the summer breeze, sunlight streaming through windows that once remained perpetually shuttered. Music drifted from the open doors, a violin and piano in perfect harmony. Avalon lowered her bow as Thorne completed the final notes of their duet. Your tempo's improving. My tempo was perfect. You were rushing, he countered, though his eyes held no reproach. The piano room, once a sanctuary of solitary grief, had become their shared space. Photographs now adorned the walls. Theodore smiling from his graduation from rehabilitation, Madison at her high school graduation, and unexpectedly, a faded image of a young couple with a small boy holding a wooden horse. Thorne's parents. The photograph had been recovered from the fire department archives at Theodore's suggestion. What time is everyone arriving? Avalon set her violin in its case. 4. Though your father will be early. Thorne rose from the piano bench, moving with the slight caution of someone still adapting to a new lease on life. The scar on his chest remained tender beneath his shirt, a permanent reminder of the heart that now beat within him. A heart that, against all medical odds, had given him a second chance. You're worried about the board meeting tomorrow, Avalon observed. Observant as always. Thorne moved to the window, watching the gardeners prepare the patio for the evening's gathering. It's been 6 months since Royce took over. The company's stock has dropped 30%. And your plan? Present the evidence of his collusion with Eliza. Demonstrate the damage to shareholder value. Propose a new leadership structure. With you as chairman, not CEO. He turned, a slight smile touching his lips. The chairman role requires less stress. My cardiologist insists. Your cardiologist is wise. She stepped closer, resting her hand over his heart, a gesture that had become habitual between them. How does it feel today? Strong. He covered her hand with his own. Steady. The journey to this moment had not been easy. When Thorne woke after the transplant, his first reaction upon learning what Avalon had done was cold fury. He'd refused to see her for weeks, communicating only through Lion. It was Theodore who finally intervened, wheeling himself into Thorne's hospital room one afternoon. You're being an idiot, he'd informed Thorne. She saved your life. Against my wishes. Because she loves you, you stubborn fool. The word had hung between them. Love. So simple, and yet so terrifying. When Thorne finally allowed Avalon to visit, they'd sat in uncomfortable silence until she'd spoken the truth plain. I couldn't let you die. Not when I finally understood what those 3 squeezes meant. His eyes had widened in surprise. I found it in an article about trauma survivors, she'd continued. How a firefighter taught a young boy to communicate when he was too frightened to speak. 3 squeezes means I love you. The memory of that revelation still warmed Thorne's chest. Or perhaps that was his new heart, teaching him how to feel again. The doorbell rang, interrupting his thoughts. Dad's early, as predicted. Avalon grinned, but Thorne caught her arm as she moved to answer. Wait. He reached into his pocket, withdrawing a small wooden box. Before everyone arrives, there's something I need to ask you. Avalon stilled. Thorne, I had a speech prepared. Something eloquent about second chances and new beginnings. He opened the box, revealing a diamond ring nestled inside. But the truth is simpler than that. What truth? That I love you. That I've loved you since you stood in my office and refused to bend. That I was too broken to admit it until I nearly lost everything. His voice, once so controlled, trembled slightly. That I don't deserve you. But I'm selfish enough to ask for you anyway. Avalon's eyes glistened. Ask me. Marry me. He took her hand, squeezing it 3 times. Not because of a contract or obligation. Not because I'm Thorne Blackwood or because your father saved my life. But because somehow, against all odds, you saw past every wall I built and loved me anyway. Yes. The word escaped on a breath. Yes, I'll marry you. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, the doorbell rang again, more insistently. They shared a laugh. The moment of intimacy giving way to the reality of waiting family. Ready to face them? Avalon asked. With you? I'm ready for anything. They walked hand in hand to greet their guests. Theodore coming up the ramp Thorne had installed, Madison behind him, Lion and his wife following with housewarming gifts. As sunset painted the Connecticut hills in gold, they gathered on the patio that had once felt as cold and empty as Thorne himself. Now laughter filled the space. Theodore sharing embarrassing stories of Avalon's childhood, Madison teasing Thorne about his still limited culinary skills. Later, as twilight deepened, Thorne found Avalon standing alone at the edge of the garden, gazing at the stars. "Happy?" he asked, slipping his arms around her waist. She leaned back against him, her head fitting perfectly beneath his chin. "Complete," she corrected. "Which is better than happy." "How so?" "Happiness comes and goes. Completeness." She turned in his arms, meeting his gaze. "Completeness is finding the missing piece you didn't know you were searching for." Thorne smiled, then drew her closer, his heartbeat strong and steady against hers, a rhythm of renewal, of promises kept and futures beginning. 3 gentle squeezes of her hand. "I love you, now and always."